Are you a businesswoman who is finding it challenging to get your ideas across and make a point? Welcome to Speakers Who Get Results with Elizabetch Bachman, a podcast dedicated to helping women get the visibility they want, whether making a speech or talking in a meeting. Every week, get valuable lessons from Elizabeth or learn from her roundtable conversations with experts and speakers on how to make a difference, not just a point. On to the show with your host, Elizabetch Bachman.
Hello, and welcome to Speakers Who Get Results. I'm Elizabetch Bachman, your host, and this is where we interview experts to learn how to use presentation skills to move our listeners to take action. Today, I am the featured speaker because I want to talk about one of the things that I'm really passionate about, which are the 3 big presenting mistakes that even smart and savvy presenters make when they're trying to get results, and of course, how to fix them. Before we start, I'd like to invite you to go over to take a free assessment at speakforresultsquiz.com. That's www.speakforresultsquiz.com, where you can take a free assessment to find out where your strengths are and where you might need a little support. So, the 3 big presenting mistakes that cost you sales. This is really in context of giving a speech or giving a sales presentation. Some of us give a speech to promote ourselves, to get people to hire us. That's what I do. Some of us give a presentation that gives people information about your company, and then hopefully gets them to work with you, work with the company, or at the very least support your company. I do a lot of work with nonprofits, and there you're doing a presentation that's going to get people to donate, hopefully. The problem is there are 3 big mistakes that people make, and it happens over and over and over again, and then they don't get the results they want. First of all, let's say a little something about sales. Any kind of presentation where you want to get a result, a monetary result, is a sales speech. But sales often has a bad reputation. That whole used car, hey, come on and buy my car, that has given a bad reputation. So I often like to think of this as an enrollment speech. If you're giving a speech to enroll people into the idea that they should donate to your nonprofit, work with your company, consider you a thought leader, or in the case of many of us, to hire us, to work with us, to invest in themselves by working with us. In all these cases, it's a result that you're looking for. Yes, it's a sales speech. You might call it even an enrollment speech. In order to get these results, you need 3 things. You need a strategy so that you're talking to the right people. You need a script. You need the right kind of words. And you need a compelling style, a compelling delivery style. And these are the things where people make such great mistakes that I'm going to talk about today. First of all, strategy. The first big mistake that I see people make is not being relevant to the audience. Now, you might think you're being relevant, but if they're not responding, if they're checking out, if they've maybe pulled out their phone and they're checking their messages, then you're not relevant to them. And quite often what it is you're not addressing their problems, their pain. I know people talk about stress the pain these days, and it may not be comfortable to do so. But after all, there is a reason why they've come to listen to you. They've come to hear you because they're hoping you have a solution to their problem. So address what it is that they want. You can always give them what they need later. But make sure you know why people have come. One of the great things is, one of the great tips that I use all the time is, if you're giving a speech at an event, make sure you're there at the beginning. Make sure you talk to people as they come in, welcome them, and then say, what brought you here? Why are you interested? That way you have an idea of what their pains are, what the problem is, and then you can address that so that they say, yes, she's talking to me. He's got the idea. He knows where my problem is, and he understands me. Sometimes, even though you're addressing the right thing, you're not speaking to the right people. So another piece of strategy is to make sure you know who needs what it is you have to offer. For instance, I'm happily married. I don't need to go to a relationship coach who's going to say, teach me how to get a date with the right person. I get lots of invitations for these, and I just say, thanks, but no thanks. I'm happy where I am. So make sure you know who you're speaking to and whether they actually need what you're looking for. So the first problem is not being relevant. And the answer is, know who you're speaking to and then make sure you're addressing their pain. The second biggest problem is too much how, not enough why. And by that, I mean telling people how to do what you want them to do without telling them why they should care. And I know this is sales 101. It's sell the benefits, not the process, not the features. Sell the sizzle, not the steak. And yet it's really easy to get into how you do what you want to do. We've all done it. Here's how you can fix that. Remind yourself that it's all about them. Remind yourself that you want to give them value. Tell them the sorts of things that they can get when they are working with you or buy your product or work with your company. But focus on the benefits and what they're going to get, not how they're going to get it. Because after all, if you told them the whole how, you know it, but they don't, and you'll confuse them. Or if you give them too much and then you ask them to buy your course or hire you, if you've already given them too much information, that's kind of like feeding them a full meal and then asking them to pay for dessert. You want to give them just enough so that they do get value. Whether they work with you or not, whether they buy your product or not, they should come away knowing that they've learned something, because after all, it's all about service, without giving away the whole store. One of the ways you can think about it is to remind yourself that you are giving hope. You're talking about the problem, identifying the problem that they have, and then offering them a solution. You give them a taste of the solution, but not the whole thing. I often find with speaker clients, if I can remind them that they are a figure of hope by saying there is a solution, it's possible, and I'll show you how to do it if you come and work with me, then you don't have to explain the whole thing. You have to explain just enough. And the third biggest mistake is being bland or pushy. Think about it. Have you ever heard a boring speaker, a bland speaker? Or for that matter, have you ever heard a pushy speaker? Yeah. Or have you ever been that bland or pushy speaker? I have. I'm afraid I've done them both. That's actually why I teach this, is because I've made all the mistakes myself. Here's what you can do. Work with someone who can watch you. You can't see yourself. It's kind of like when you're inside the bottle, you can't read the label. Get somebody to be a living mirror, to give you feedback. And work on your delivery style. After all, only 7% of what people perceive about you comes from your words. The other 93% is who you are in the room, how you look, how you act, your charisma. And the cool thing about that, that's all learnable. It's not like you're born with charisma and you either have it or you're not. Charisma and stage presence is a learned skill. Some people learn it early, some people learn it later, but it's all learnable. My client, Mary, had great words. She had a great strategy. She had a great script, but her delivery style was terrible. And what happened was the gremlins in her head would start talking. She'd get up and she would start talking to people, and she'd get more and more nervous, and her eyes would drop and her voice would go into a monotone and you could hardly hear her. And so what we did was we worked on her delivery style a lot more than her words. And she wrote to me once and she said, after a presentation, and she said, "Oh my God, it was amazing. I was really nervous because I only had 3 minutes and I wasn't allowed to make an offer. But I did what you told me. I followed your directions. And my friends said they'd never seen me so grounded and so compelling on stage." And the best part was that afterwards, 8 people came up to my exhibition table and bought my introductory program. I made $8,000 in 3 minutes. Yes! This is possible. It's all learned skills. It's all learning the craft of communication so that you can say what's in your heart. You can say what matters to you, but in a way that will enable your call to action, in a way that will tell people, if they're the right people for you, that yes, they need to work with you. They need to work with your company. They need to hire you. After all, sales is like sex. Nothing happens till somebody gets excited. I'm Elizabeth Bachman, and if you're interested in learning more about this, you can contact me by taking the quiz, the speakforresultsquiz.com. Fill that out so you have an idea of where you're great and where you might need some support. And I will get a message, and then we can have a free conversation to talk about what it is that you need and how you could possibly go farther. So I'm Elizabeth Bachman. Thank you so much for tuning in to Speakers Who Get Results, and I'll see you on the next one.
We have just concluded another great episode of Speakers Who Get Results with your host, Elizabeth Bachman. If you got value from today's episode, please feel free to share us with your friends and colleagues. You may also visit elizabethbachman.com for additional resources. Be sure to tune in every week for new episodes, and thanks for tuning in.